I am resident of Culver, YouTube, Joel Sayings. That is my buddy Patrick McCray. There's my buddy Gordon Dymowski. That's my buddy Alan Gallant. That's my buddy Culver. We're here to review the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This is a film by Dan Curtis, who we're all fans of because he created this lovely, lovely show called Dark Shadows that we're all fans of.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
Alan, is that the reason you chose this movie?
Well, this movie is more Dark Shadows than Dark Shadows, especially at the time it was being filmed in late '67, premiered in early '68, January of '68, and it has an interesting history as well. But yeah, it's a Dan Curtis production. It's shot on videotape, but it's the budget for it was somewhere around $700,000, I think, which is why the sets are really quite nice for the time. And obviously Bob Cobert's music, much of it from Dark Shadows, as a matter of fact, almost all of it from that time. Quentin's theme is heard in it, but it hadn't been actually used on the show yet. That was something that he pulled out of his pants and gave to Dan Curtis when he demanded to have something quick for the introduction of the Quentin character. So yeah, the Dark Shadows angle certainly is one of the reasons why I preferred this film. Back in 1991, 92, when I first started getting back involved with Dark Shadows, about the time I quit drinking, I needed to have something to occupy my time and be obsessed about. So Dark Shadows kind of filled that void for me. And I was grabbing hold of anything related to it at that time. And that's about the time I think I rented the VHS tape of this particular movie. So that was the first time I saw it. It was around 91, 92, sorry.
Cool. Cool. Uh, Daniel, when did you first see this?
Actually, just today.
Cool. Cool. Patrick, when did you first see this?
The sort of thing that was on TV here and there, as I recall. Sometime when I was a kid, they all and I as they all kind of blend together the Jekyll and Hydes a little bit. Certainly this is color and in the 1960s and so on, so it's not Charles Lawton or something. Um, but yeah, it's real hazy though in my memory as to it. I mean, it was always there. It feels like I think it was on Showtime had it on constantly for a while. I don't really remember because I
I
feel like there was another version that was kind of like this in the 80s. They kind of hung around. Maybe Hallmark did one. They all kind of run together. I mean, they
uh-huh.
really, for me, they really do.
Well, I'll tell you, the whole Dan Curtis Macabre collection runs together for me because it was on various networks in the '80s and '90s too. You know,
Yeah. So
almost all of those.
I may have it confused with another thing. I know Straczynski wrote one that felt kind of like this at one point. And I would like to see his. I think that would probably be the most interesting one. I mean, besides Matheson's Enemy Within,
Uh-huh.
which I think is the best version of this kind of story
Yeah.
because it does such different things with it.
Well, Matheson writes it. It's usually a gold
He's
medal
awfully
winner
good.
anyway.
He's awfully good.
Sort of
Yeah,
the Paddy Chayefsky of science fiction and horror.
yeah.
He wrote a ton of fantastic stuff.
Gordon, when did you first see this?
I remember first watching this when I was about 5 or 6 years old because it at the time I think it was the local ABC station did like a Friday night movie at like 10:30 where it was like because I remember seeing the version of Frankenstein with Robert Foxworthy.
Yeah.
That's another Dan Curtis. That's part
Yeah.
of that collection.
Um,
Yeah.
I think they even showed like the Night Stalker and some other stuff. So it was kind of like this. It's Friday night. Nobody out, what are we going to show in the 1970s? So I have some very dim memories of that. The first conscious viewing was when it was released in 91, because as they were releasing the Dark Shadows stuff, they would occasionally release one of these Dan Curtis things. I guess it was like, they MPI was really working that Dark Shadows license at the time.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's, kind of like Patrick, I think it runs concurrently with different, because most Jekyll and Hyde adaptations kind of take the same, not just the same story beats, but the same general neo-Victorian setting. So it's kind of how you tell it, You can tell the story as like the 1932 version with Frederick March. It has like an evolutionary approach, it's Jekyll goes down a level. He's very ape-like.
Hmm.
The 41 version with Spencer Tracy is more Freudian in its approach. Um, there are some interpretations that see the potion thing, and this one kind of leans into that a little bit as an addiction metaphor.
Did Charles Lawton do one, or am I completely?
Yeah, let me look.
I don't think he did. I guess I was thinking of the Frederick March, which is very funny. I mean,
Maybe.
he is very ape-like. He's adorable in some places.
But no, with Frederick March, it was the first where they used like the color filters. So he actually changed on camera where you see his skin
Yeah,
darken.
so
They used a
clever.
red filter and then removed it.
Really smart.
Yeah,
Wow, really
yeah.
smart.
Yeah, and then they did the cutaway to add the teeth and all of that sort of thing. But the initial part of it, where all the contours of his face start to change and everything, yeah, it's fantastic. I've seen that. That was also done with some uh, witch hag character in a movie called something
This,
Octopus.
yeah, I think the octopus.
Yeah, the octopus. That was also done very effectively, and so yeah, it was early camera tricks and very effective ones.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the adaptations of Jekyll and Hyde, because they all kind of seem to do the Victorian thing the same, and it's the same story beats. So it's um like this version, I think it's weird because I think it tries to do three different things at once. Because it tries to do the violence thing and the idea that Hyde does the stuff that Jekyll would never do. That like
Right.
Jekyll wants to do stuff, so Hyde goes ahead and does it. Then I think there's the kind of the addiction alcoholism vibe where, it's the point where he's blacking out. He needs coffee to stay awake.
Right.
But then at the end, there's that quote about, if you condone violence to ensure tomorrow, will there be a tomorrow? And it's like, huh? And I think,
They use that as a sort of a bracket because they mention that at the beginning of the film and then they come back to it at the end of the film. I think they're trying to be kind of cute with that,
yeah,
but yeah.
yeah, but I
Yeah.
think, I think the better version of this approach to the story is when Dark Shadows did it at Parallel Time 1970. It's not
Yeah,
it's not taking away from Enemy
Jaeger.
Within. It's
Right.
just if you're going to do, I could see Dan Curtis. I think it explains why Dark Shadows didn't do their Jekyll and Hyde in 1897, because I think probably 1970, with the way the culture was and the fact that you're dealing with 40-year-old guys are thinking, hey, we got to tell the kids to stay off the drugs, don't get hopped up on the crack rock, kids. Um, and I think that, um, this, I mean, it's not a bad version. I think it's just, you can kind of tell that. I know the production history was a little wonky. I think maybe there was just let's do a Jekyll and Hyde without thinking, well, why should we do a Jekyll and Hyde?
I think that's a big, 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 big point. I think that's very, very, very important. And I agree with you about the John Yeager stuff in Dark Shadows. That was some of my favorite stuff to write about in Daybook Unbound. Um, because he is I got a lot to say about John Yeager. I'm not sure John Yeager's a bad guy. Entirely. He's a lot more nuanced than I think we generally see. I know Pennock found the part incredibly fun to play
Yes.
because it was about total freedom for him,
It was
and I think
also
it
about
was a
bipolarism for him.
well, it was a properly Leary era approach. I think
Yes.
to the part. When I look at this, and it's all very Catholic. You
Mhm.
know, it's extremely Catholic. You know, you get this Scottish Catholic author, Stevenson, and this is a great gimmick. The story, ooh, I take a formula, I become a monster, kind of thing, and then you layer in sort of the pseudo, psychology of, oh, well, who is man really underneath the flesh, and so on and so
Mhm.
forth, and yet it doesn't really go as many places as I think it could. I think one of the reasons why Dark Shadows had such a an ace in its hole with it was that it was able to look at the evolution and implications of the character over a long period of time.
Yeah.
I think this might be good as a longer TV series. I think the mistake in doing it in the modern age where we've done the goddamn thing to death anyway is doing it too simply. I mean, let this character evolve. You know, really study. Well, if we do have two sides, is it just animal and civilized? Is it just good and evil and so on and so forth?
Yeah, and
No. I mean, that's what Matheson did so well. Is that they needed each other.
Right. There's a psychological crisis when there's a merging on around the edges, and then finally it becomes more and more. And they kind of pay a little homage to that in this because he keeps changing and changing back and forth, and they keep self-referring and all this sort of thing. But it's not that kind of crisis like you're talking about, where they need each other so desperately. There's that everything becomes blurred, and it's still one person just being split. It's still, Jekyll is as responsible for Hyde as Hyde is for Jekyll. They're equally culpable in what's happening because they're the same person.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is straying a little bit from the point. I hope not too much. I I don't. I'm not obviously. I'm not a fan of this story very much. It's kind of like it. I can see where it was a big deal in the Victorian era,
Sure.
and we've told a few stories since then, and maybe
and
we've gotten a little
and
more sophisticated with it.
and the thing is, this is not only just the second draft of this story, because Stevenson threw the first draft out. He was set
Really,
on fire because it came after a really bad nightmare. He was like setting it on fire, and his wife said, "No, this is a good story," and he rewrote it from scratch. And the other thing is, in rereading the story, I reread it about a couple of years ago. It's not the Jekyll invents a potion, turns into Hyde, shenanigans ensue. It's there's an inspector who's inspecting weird stuff, learns about Hyde, and then it turns out, oh yeah, he's this Jekyll guy who created a formula.
oh,
So the
well,
revelation
that's
is
a very different story.
it is.
Yes.
It's first of all you get the effect, and then later you get the cause rather than the cause and effect.
Mhm.
I
Sure.
When I did it, I did the Frank Wildhorn musical, which is because it has the name Frank Wildhorn attached to it. If you know much about musicals, it's just going to be terrible.
Mhm.
It's an execrable show with some good numbers. You know, he
Hmm.
wrote the thing for his wife, like Lloyd Webber would do, and the rest of it is like, ooh. I mean, it starred David Hasselhoff. I rest my case.
Yes.
Um, but I kind of took it as a dare to make it gooder than I traditionally saw it. I took, liberties in the staging and so on and so forth. The first thing I did, and these are things I would love to see another production do. I mean, it's theatrical. I don't know if you could do it in film as well. I cast two different actors,
Hmm.
and I did it in a Victorian surgical theater. So the entire community was always watching everything that went on. Everyone wore a mask, sort of a Venetian mask that I had the actors construct for themselves, except of course for Hyde, and perhaps that was a bit cliched, but Jekyll was a lot like Claudius. He was highly imperfect. He was stammering, and he had a club foot, and was seeking, and there are a lot of sort of Nazi things going on with this, but he was seeking to perfect himself,
Yes.
rather than explore this other thing. And indeed, the person he creates was beautiful. The gentleman who played him was just beautiful. He was this blonde god. He really was. He was a hell of an actor.
Mhm.
And it was all in the way that he behaved that we saw this,
The
devolution.
monster. Yeah.
Yeah, and I,
Because
the
that's how
note I
people
took.
are. A lot of,
Yeah,
that they look human, but they behave monstrously
and
sometimes.
the note I took from that was from James Whale, which is, sometimes very pretty people do very terrible things. And the fact that he was blonde and so on, and the music does become very strident and almost Nazi-like at certain times,
Mhm.
um, fit. And that worked really well. I did the transformation differently every time. But the longer the play went on, the more they would literally be on stage at the same time. Sometimes with Hyde, or with Jekyll being held back by the rest of the cast, as he would see Hyde doing these terrible things, and he was unable to stop him.
Mhm.
And that I thought was really, it's a drug thing. He's trying to better himself. He's trying to be free. He's trying to be free of what he thinks are the limitations that he has, when in fact those are maybe assets.
Oh, I can see that. Oh, it's actually interesting. You know how you were saying like when Gordon was telling you about the book, you were saying like how it was, a different story pretty much. That's actually what's interesting is have you guys ever read the book Frankenstein?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
I
absolutely.
haven't,
Yeah.
but I'm planning to.
Oh, I won't spoil it for you, but well, maybe a little bit, well, maybe some, but let's just say the book Frankenstein is another example of that like it's practically a different story,
Oh,
than the version.
oh,
Well, Frankenstein is a cautionary tale.
yeah,
It's not a horror novel.
yeah.
It's a
Create a man
cautionary
who
tale.
doesn't talk until he does, and then he never shuts the fuck up.
Yeah. But
Right.
I had my first copy of, I actually ordered my first copy of Frankenstein through Scholastic Books when I was like 11 years old.
Oh,
I
that's pretty
did
cool.
too.
Yeah. And it was a full unexpurgated version in the Easy Eye print, which meant those
I had that
light
copy.
green pages.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Jewel, you're going to want to avoid the upcoming Netflix version of Frankenstein.
Uh,
It looks fantastic. It's directed by Guillermo del Toro, so stay away.
You want to stay away
Who?
from that.
Who?
The guy that
Who?
directed the
The
movie
Academy
that you
Award
had
winning.
a version to a week and a half or so ago.
Again, who? And
Yes, yes.
A
now,
very important filmmaker, Jewel. A very important filmmaker. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but yeah.
uh, uh, I have a little fun story with this movie. So I caught this movie on TV once after I watched Dark Shadows for the first time ever in the 90s. And I didn't catch it at the beginning. I caught it like midway on AMC used to show during their Fright Fest like older movies during the day until they got to like the later afternoon evening they would show the more raunchy stuff. Okay, so they showed this movie and I caught it midway. I didn't know, and I keep hearing the Dark Shadows music and I'm thinking, why isn't Dan Curtis suing this guy's ass?
It's a
Because I didn't
fever
know.
dream.
You know what I mean? I
For a
was
Dark
not
Shadows fan, it's a real fever dream.
right. I
Yeah.
was I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah,
And
and
then some.
Joel, I don't know if you missed that Patrick even mentioned that Robert Colbert pulled the music out of his pants. And when
Yeah.
Robert Colbert pulls something out of his pants, you should really pay attention.
It's a
Yeah.
miracle. Ooh,
No,
goes back
no,
down.
I caught this movie like in the middle, not at the beginning. And so I was kind of like, wait, this movie's ripping off a DS. And then I realized,
No,
oh. And
Stan
then
Curtis
I
ripping off
rewatched. Then I
himself.
got to rewatch it the next day because they showed it again in the next day from the beginning. I'm like, it's a Dick Curse. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I do have to say that I enjoy how they used the Dark Shadows music in
Yeah,
this movie. It was quite nice and had that air of melodrama about it and everything else. And also, some of the cuts were produced differently. The sound quality of them was different. There was a depth to some of those cuts that wasn't there.
The music goes both ways because some of it was from Dark Shadows, and then some of Dark Shadows music later was from this.
That's
I Want to
correct.
Dance with You, Quentin's theme,
Yep.
and it all made it feel like this is taking place in the same universe.
Yeah.
If I had seen Potofi walk in, I
No
would have been thrilled,
problem.
of course.
Yeah.
But it would have felt completely part of the same thing. I'll tell you what, a word you're never going to hear attached with Bob Colbert, and I love the guy, but that's subtle.
Yeah. No.
I mean, even the
No.
theme to this, I felt assaulted by it.
I have his. He did. I mean, he also did a ton of game show
Oh yeah,
themes, which are not subtle either. And he did a version of a sort of a jazzy version of Frankie and Johnny in the late '50s, which I have the album too. It's not subtle either. It's very much not so. And we lost him. Knoxville effect.
what are you
Uh,
guys' favorite scenes in this Gordon?
Oh, that is a really hard call to make because since a lot of it is kind of samey,
Yeah.
I actually will say it's when Jekyll comes to Gwen's house after Hyde has presumably left, and he's saying, "No, I can't stay. I got to go somewhere else." And she's kind of saying, "No, you can stay," because it feels like half seduction and half kind of setting up for blackmail. And
mhm.
it's I'm sure that's as much an acting choice as it was a director. I think it feels more like an acting choice than a directorial choice, but I like that because there is that ambiguity. It's not just Jekyll is being super noble and is denying himself. There's a seeming opportunity there, but I
Mhm.
think Billy Whitelaw gives it a little bit more menace than the scene probably deserves. But I think
Yeah,
it
Billy
helps that.
Whitelaw was a fantastic actress. I mean, she could take, the phone book and do stuff with it, and make it seem
Hmm.
like art. So yeah, I enjoyed her performance very much in this. So yeah, I'd agree with you. That's a top scene, no doubt about it. It's got more layers than a lot of the other scenes do, where a lot of the other scenes are just strict melodrama, and you going after it in the Dan Curtis way. But I also enjoyed um, some of the more atmospheric scenes because I love the aesthetic of the sets. I just
Hmm.
do. That's a weakness of mine. It can cover a lot of sins for me sometimes, but they did a really good job. I thought the sets were just big enough to have a horse-drawn carriage go through them, which made a huge difference in terms of the sort of atmospheric, being able to sort of say, okay, I can buy that this is some dead end in London somewhere, no problem. I can do that. So I really enjoyed all that sort of thing. But yes, the scene I liked a lot of the Billy Whitelaw stuff, but that scene is particularly good.
Hmm.
Daniel, what's some of your favorite scenes?
I'd say my favorite is honestly the ending, but not like in a disrespectful way. Like the scene was pretty good, like the guy heard voices and then like he of course end up killing Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because they're the same person. And then like we heard that quote at the end. And I'd say another good one was when Mr. Hyde cut the guy's face, and we actually see blood. And like let's be honest, that wasn't as common in movies back then.
No, and it was a gimmick. I mean, he covers his nose and then the blood comes out, which is a good way to do it for something that was essentially made for television.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah, and apparently, according to Grayson Hall, that was Dan Curtis's idea to do that, to do it that way, which
Oh,
makes
that's pretty
total
cool.
sense to me. Yeah.
Well, blood, in a sense, was becoming common in the 60s for I'd say for a very specific reason.
Hmm.
By the time this movie is made and released, the spaghetti westerns are in full effect.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Westerns,
uh,
yeah, sure. And it's only a couple of years away from the Wild Bunch, which is an
mhm,
incredibly bloody
yeah.
western. Uh,
Daniel, you should watch all three of the spaghetti westerns. Sorry, the Dollar trilogy. For a few dollars more. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Fistful of Dollars. You should watch all three of those films because they're awesome. Uh, it's
Okay.
it's it's the original Mandalorian,
yeah, kind of,
if you
kind of.
will.
Yeah.
Uh, stars Clint Eastwood. But yeah, some of my favorite scenes in this are just the the sets. The set designs are really beautiful. They pop huge in this
Yeah.
movie.
The
That
detail
again,
is
this
really good.
feels like a DS movie all through and
Yeah.
through, from the
Yeah.
sets, the themes, the characters, the actors, the actresses. The fight sequences are really well choreographed. I mean, uh, Patrick, what's your favorite scene?
My favorite scene?
Yeah, your favorite scene.
I don't know. Any of those rip roaring testosterone charged Denham Elliott scenes, where he's just all man. I was wow. You just get intimidated watching it. I don't have my favorite scene in this thing, but I will say that the thing I enjoyed that I wasn't expecting to was Palance. And
Yeah.
I know that sounds heretical because we're just supposed to like Jack Palance whatever he does and just kind of rubber stamp it. And I don't. I think he's kind of a blunt instrument in a lot of ways. Well, not here. He's very good, and he defies his own kind of mouth breathing machismo. Believe it or not.
Right.
Remember that. Uh,
Believe
uh,
it or not.
he overcomes that though.
Yes.
He really is. He's earning his pay, especially as Jekyll.
Mm-hmm. Yes. The mild mannered.
It's a
Yeah.
believable performance.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is. Well, his hide's pretty good too because it's not standard machismo. It's satyr,
It
and there's some
it
of
is,
that going on there.
but I expect him to be able to pull that off.
Yeah.
I expect him to be able to do that. This I was really he's not the most delicate actor in the world. I mean there are better
No.
actors cast in the part.
Mm-hmm.
Frederick Mark, Spencer Tracy, guys like that, I think,
Yep.
have that kind of range. God bless him, Chris Pennick.
Yep.
But here, yeah, I was surprised. I really was.
Hmm. So that leads me to my next question here, guys. What's your favorite, and in you guys' opinion, what is the best Dan Curtis movie?
Night Stalker. Yeah,
Yeah.
the first Kolchak. For me,
Yeah, I would say so too, because it's actually, even though it's Dan Curtis and his handprints are all over it, it's a departure Dan Curtis.
yeah.
The way that it's assembled and everything, it just works in a different way. It's got a sense of humor in places, which much of his work
It
does
does
not
not.
have.
Does not.
Yeah,
Uh, but this does. You're right. I think it's a great choice.
yeah. I'm going to suggest as a number two, Trilogy of Terror, because
Mm,
Oh, I've heard of that.
Here's
I
fun.
think Matheson brings the best out of him, and I think there's a natural kind of affinity. Whereas, like in something like this, even though he didn't write or direct it feels very, it feels it at times it feels very clunky, and I don't think I I think it's more the nature of the production than it is,
Mm.
the technical expertise. I mean, it's fine.
Well, I mean, Matheson definitely is like the sort of the twin light of Dan Curtis Productions, because Dan Curtis in interviews would go on and on about Matheson and how he wooed Matheson to come in to, write stuff for him, and how
That's good. That
great he
speaks well of
was.
Curtis. Well,
Yeah,
Curtis
it
really
does. He
respected
appreciated.
good writers because I think he
Yes,
respected his own limitations.
yes, yes. He understood that Matheson was a great writer, and a really good screenwriter as well. Um, so yeah, it's a funny story because he had to pull. Curtis claims he had to pull a real sales pitch on him and really flatter him and do all that stuff, but nothing. It didn't work, and then something clicked between the two of them. They were talking about something that had nothing to do with the deal, and something clicked.
I find that that's a story I would really like to know more about
Sure.
because Dan Curtis had money and he
Yep.
had a reputation in the genre, and Richard Matheson liked to eat.
Absolutely, and I
So
think
at a certain point, it's like, well, how much do you really have to do? It's like, hey,
right.
Dick, come and adapt this thing for me.
Well,
And
apparently, Dan claimed that Dick was really suspicious of Hollywood, and he didn't want to really just kind of cave on any.
suspicious of Hollywood, the guy wrote movies and TV constantly.
I know he did, but Ellison did too, and
Well,
his
yeah, but you
relationship
don't
to
hear any of
Hollywood
the
was,
story. You
you
don't
know,
hear any of the stories
no,
about there's no crazy Dick Matheson jumped on a table and
no,
knocked
no,
down
no.
the
That's true.
sea view and broke the guy's pelvis type stories.
Well, at least none of these said out loud. I
Not that he
mean,
said out loud. Yeah.
Right.
You want to know why they call
But
me Dick Matheson? I'll show you.
that's
No,
right.
we don't hear that.
No, it's true, but that doesn't, but that was Curtis's take on it anyway, that he was somehow, or maybe he was just suspicious of Curtis initially, and maybe that was it.
That might have been it. It's
Yeah.
like, Dan, I've seen some of the stuff. I
Yeah,
don't
well,
know.
and also, Dan's attitude and his personality might not have
That
meshed
more than
either.
anything, just dealing. I mean, Rod Serling. I know they didn't always get along incredibly, but Rod was a respectful thief. I mean, a
Hmm.
respectful producer,
Yeah.
and I think treated those guys, pretty well.
That's the difference between thievery and inspired appropriation is respect.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Daniel, favorite Dan Curtis movie? Got one?
Honestly, I haven't seen a lot of his movies as well. I don't think I have, but I will say, House of Dark Shadows.
There you go. There.
yeah, and what's really interesting is that I think towards the end of his life, Curtis was working on. I think he actually directed some of those Hallmark romantic Christmas movie
Oh
things,
wow,
Mm.
which
that's
which
crazy.
I mean, yeah, Dan's got to eat, but you got to wonder, like, is he going to set with his golf club, like, be more intimate?
That's right.
Right.
I want emotional intimacy. God damn it!
Kiss her
If you don't give it to
harder.
me, I'll rip off your goddamn neck. I mean, that's the sort of thing he would say.
That's right.
Um,
Squeeze her shoulders.
I haven't read the Jeff Thompson books. I've met Jeff, hell of a guy,
He is a hell of a
incredibly
guy.
nice,
He's a very nice.
incredibly smart. I want to read the books because I want I need a better guide to Dan Curtis because I've never been that impressed. He's a good producer. He's good at collecting other people and letting them do, or threatening them into
Mhm.
doing
Mhm.
interesting things. But the closer we get to a purer Dan Curtis vision, the less I'm interested.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
I
well,
just
Yeah, like when you consider that his big masterpiece is The Winds of War and War and Remembrance, where I don't think I don't, and this may be a bias on my part, but I think doing World War II era movies are relatively easy in terms of
I know what you
acting
mean.
and
Yes,
directing and,
yes.
yeah.
you
What was
know,
hard about that was the scope of it.
yes.
It was enormous production. I mean, like they had like literally cast of thousands.
And he was the man to do it. Well, and the other man to do it, of course, was Barbara Steele, who was right beside
Yes.
him.
And Dan wore out his welcome at various times with Barbara Steele.
Oh, I think he did. I think he really did. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is a woman who's been especially catty about David Cronenberg. So,
Yeah.
What'd she say?
well, I think it's the DVD for Shivers, which is the first Cronenberg movie.
Mm.
And she was in it, and she's like, she's doing her kind of high-end British actress, and she's
Sure.
talking about, oh, David was enthusiastic. He loved his bodily fluids and his little squishy things. And you kind of go like, yeah, but you still took the money, you know?
Well, of course she did. Was she in it, or was she like
She was in it,
producer? Was in it. Okay. Yeah.
but I think it's like a blink and you miss her kind of appearance.
I mean, she produced on the Winds of War and Remembrance. I mean, that was 10 years of the two of them together, loggerheads and agreements, and back to loggerheads again. And then Dark Shadows, which she almost walked off of because by that time she'd had enough, I think.
I know she had. What I heard is she had a lot of fights with him in casting initially, because her vision for Pug, his vision for Pug was Robert Mitchum.
Sure.
And she said, if you want that kind of macho, kind of a testosterone filled performance, you got to get Roddy McDowell. And it's kind of never really
never really
met
materialized.
halfway.
No.
Right. One of my favorite Dan Curtis movie is Night of Dark Shadows. The psychology of it, the haunted house. To me, one of his best shot movies where he really, because we're going to see this later on in other horror movies too. He makes you feel like you're the victim or you're the attacker at times to the audience, is House of Dark Shadows. I feel from a visual standpoint that was very daring of him to do.
Camera's character, yeah.
I have a lot of suspicions about House of Dark or Night of Dark Shadows. Because there's this eternal question of what would the film have been had the missing stuff been in there. I've read the script,
it's the one.
And my secret fear is that the difference in flavor, I imagine, I don't have firsthand knowledge of this, between a small turd and a large turd. It's and I just don't know if, Night of Dark Shadows for me personally is ultimately, I can't tell. It might just be more. It's like, wow, here it is, and now there's more of it.
Right, exactly. I have the same feeling, suspicion even, but I'd also like to see it as a complete artifact, just to have a complete
and
artifact.
It's real weird. I've heard the stories. I got to talk to Jim Pearson about it, and I won't tell you what the conclusion was, but I don't know if it was the sort of thing to do backflips over.
Right.
Not about the quality of the film, but the quality of not just the potential existence for the public of what I guess Darren Gross has done.
As an investment
trivia. I don't know if that's a thing we're ever really going to see. Right. And to me, that is a red flag no one's paying attention to. That all of these film companies, Scream and Vinegar Syndrome, all these companies they've gone to, and they say, hey, look what we got, because it's finished, I think, and even they don't want it. And there is going to be a certain amount of people. I mean, they're all aging, but who'll go, oh, this is Dark Shadows, I shall buy it. And then film historians who say, oh, this is the Lost Dark Shadows film, I shall buy it. And they still don't want to do it. And I don't think that may not be an anti-Dark Shadows prejudice. That may just be a pro-good movie prejudice.
Yeah.
It might be. It also might be having to hassle with Warner Brothers. It might be having to hassle with DCP. A number of things.
I don't know if it's that. I really don't. I feel like there are a lot of people who are eager to get this thing out there, so they'll stop talking about it, and
nobody will.
Could it also be, in addition to being maybe not a good movie, the fact that I think Amazon owns MGM. So even if you tried to license it from them, they might be, why should we pay you money to license something that, again, is a bad film?
Yeah, Warner's had the distribution rights to it,
Mhm.
but that could have changed. I mean, it could be totally Amazon
Yeah, I mean,
now.
for all we know, there's like a Mickey Rooney dance scene in the middle, or
That'd be
maybe
amazing.
maybe
Oh
maybe
yeah,
naked Burgess Meredith. We don't know.
Yeah,
that
You never
defines
know.
a good movie.
yeah. But
Uh,
you know,
is there anything you guys want to add about this movie before we go?
I think it's a nice movie, and like I say, I probably just love it even more because of the fact that it's so much like Dark Shadows.
That's
Um,
pretty cool.
and the vibe of it and everything else. But I'd give it a solid 9 just for what it is.
Okay. Oh yeah, there's something I want to say too. Like, unfortunately, we'll probably never see the. Well, I guess not really about this movie. It's more about this story. But we'll probably never see the first adaptation of this because it came in 1908. But unfortunately,
Mm.
it's one of those movies that became lost. So
Oh,
there's
Turned
not
into
like.
probably turned into
so many of
vinegar.
those films. I
Yeah,
think the majority of them gone.
yeah, yeah. They
Yeah,
turned into vinegar in cases, sitting on a shelf somewhere. That's unfortunate that happened, but that's happened to a lot of old.
that's true. And actually, yeah, you probably already know this story, but yeah, that actually happened with Frankenstein from 1910. Before someone comments say that's easy to find, it's easy to find now, but back in the 70s, it was believed to be a lost film. But then one collector didn't know what they had, and they said, "Hey,
Yeah,
wait, that's that movie that they thought was lost."
yeah. Occasionally you get that. You'll get somebody's got a stash of gold somewhere in a vault and
Yeah,
been
there's
preserved
even a
well enough to
new
digitize it.
yeah, there's even a new charity in England called Film is Fabulous that they actually go out to, they're kind of like a triage system where they reach out to film collectors and make sure that as those film collectors pass, they're able to take the films, restore them, and if they're like kinescopes of old television shows, they can then forward them to the appropriate owners. Because there's another big rumor about possible missing episodes of Doctor Who being
Mhm.
found and released.
That's pretty interesting. Hopefully they do, like, because I know like some of the Doctor Who, like in the classic era, like they tried to, because some of the scenes are lost, they actually animated some of them.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and those are good, and those are pretty good. So
Oh, that's good.
uh, it's Daniel's turn to pick.
Oh,
Thank God.
oh yeah, that's understandable. Why don't we do Battle Royale? I don't know if it's heavily available, but I have it on Blu-ray.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good movie.
yeah, and I'm going to be taking a break for a couple of weeks. One of my big work projects is starting to blow up, and I've got deadlines, so I should at least put some effort into meeting those. Simply because it's meeting deadlines is always a good thing to
it
do.
is. It is. I'm working one now on syllabi. So
Hmm.
Can we do Battle Royal Friday? Then I'll have services by Friday.
sure,
Oh yeah, fine.
sure.
Okay.
That's
All
great.
right. You guys have a good week. Take care and be safe. All right, guys. Links to Gordon Dymowski's Amazon page will be in the description box and website. Link to Patrick McCray's Dark Shadows Day Books Unbound will be in the description box. Link to Alan Gallant's YouTube channel, Colin Sport After Dark, will be in the description box. And link to Daniel Culver's YouTube channel, Magic Dove, will be in the description box. You folks be safe and have a happy Halloween.
That
You
all?
too.
Good night.